liberal firebrand and runner-up for least funny thing alive, Bill Maher, he lost out to a potato bug, recently interviewed the homeless man at the bus station who asks you for $1 to help get to Cincinnati, and then you give him one, and then he walks off and buys cigarettes with it. Oh, never mind. That's Sean Penn. Yes, that's Sean Penn. Jesus, trying to get more people killed in Ukraine while high-fiving literal Nazis has not been kind to his face, head thing. I didn't know Nazis were so drying to your skin. Anyway, I watched this interview for you guys because I haven't had food poisoning in a few years, and I wanted to remember what it's like to puke my lungs out. These two men have millions of people listening to their deep, so deep thoughts on a regular basis, and therefore pointing out just how remarkably stupid they are, I think serves a purpose. Or maybe it doesn't, and I lost my lunch and my sanity just for your entertainment. Let's dive in.
You must be over the moon about the Ukrainian attack. I don't know when we're dropping this, probably very soon, but a few days ago, they did, it's cooler than Mission Impossible. The drones fly out of the trucks and bomb the planes that are bombing Ukraine. That took the Israeli beeper attack on Hezbollah.
And a big chunk of the planes that have been a threat against every other country, including our own.
Wow. It's like watching two toddlers who are also high somehow discuss geopolitics. Yeah, Bill Maher, was it like Mission Impossible? The proxy war we created, armed, facilitated, planned for decades, and tore up all of the peace proposals to make sure Ukrainians and Russians would keep killing each other as long as possible? It's so rad, dude. I think my undies are wet. Maher also wants to celebrate the terror attack by Israel that maimed and killed nurses, children, doctors, which Maher calls Hezbollah. Yeah, Bill, we're all the children who got hurt or killed Hezbollah. All those 6-year-old Hezbollah terrorists, they start them young over there, don't they? If any other entity had done that, blown up pagers in random people's faces and pockets, we would be calling it the largest terror attack in recent years. But because it's only Israel, the country genociding Gaza, it's a cool Mission Impossible kind of thing, brah. Remember in the second or third Mission Impossible when Tom Cruise blows up the faces of a bunch of children? Wow, what a courageous man. Oh, wait, that's usually something the bad guy does, usually played by someone with a Russian accent. Then Sean Penn, so as not to be out-stupided, chimes in with, plus Ukraine blew up the planes Russia was using to threaten other countries, including our own. What the actual are you talking about? Did Madonna's get lodged in your brain? Do you mean during the Cold War that ended over 30 years ago? Or you mean right now, all those planes Russia has been threatening the U.S. with? If Russia wants to threaten us, they point to their nukes, which last I checked are doing fine. Where do you get your geopolitical understanding? The back of a Cracker Jack box? Holy shit. But hold on. A moment later, Bill makes a good point. It happens sometimes, like a blind squirrel finding an acorn, or a broken clock being right twice a day, or Dwayne Johnson not sounding breathtakingly excited by his own farts for 1 second, or Dr. Oz saying something true accidentally. Once every blue moon, these things happen.
Look, Russia's going to win anyway. What are we killing all these people? It's kind of like the old John Kerry thing. How do you ask a man to be the last man to die for a mistake?
I've said from the very beginning, and I've felt every single day since it, that this war is Ukraine will prevail in this war. There's no question in my mind.
Wow. In the odds over which one of these 70-year-old stoner narcissists was going to come across closer to the intelligence of a paperweight, my money was on Maher. But Sean Penn beating the odds. Impressive. Do you understand the type of guests Bill Maher has to book so that he can sometimes come across as smart? Most of them can't tie their shoes. Some don't have shoes because they have hooves. There's literally no way Ukraine wins this war. The only question is how long can the U.S. and Britain and Germany keep them fighting so that hundreds of thousands of more people die? Ukraine is literally grabbing scared 18-year-olds off the streets because they've run out of soldiers, and they're putting them in uniforms to use as cannon fodder alongside a bunch of Nazis. When you're on the side of Nazis, it's time to rethink your position. Of course, the U.S. has been siding with Nazis since exactly one day after World War II, so I guess this is par for the course.
That's not a common opinion.
But I understand it's not a common opinion. It wasn't a common opinion that the Vietnamese were going to kick our ass through the Vietnam War either.
Oh my God, that's a great point! If we lived in a different reality where that made any sense. Vietnam couldn't be any different of a scenario. The U.S. was halfway across the world without a clear purpose, fighting a people we had no understanding of, using troops who didn't believe in the cause because they didn't know what the f- it was. The Russia-Ukraine proxy war is nothing like it. Oh, except for the fact that the U.S. in both scenarios is an imperial douche nozzle that destroys countries and lies about it. That part is totally the same. Maybe that's what you meant, Sean.
I know you know more about Ukraine than anybody I know, and probably have done more, and you're linked to it. I mean, culturally, morally, socially, you are all in on Ukraine.
No! He knows less about Ukraine than a canister of mustache wax. He doesn't know the history. He doesn't know the truth about the Maidan coup. He doesn't know that this war has been going on since at least 2014. He doesn't know that Russia for decades said that NATO moving into Ukraine was a red line for Russia. He doesn't know that even the New York Times has said that the CIA was operating in the woods on the Russian border since 2014, though likely earlier. He doesn't know a goddamn thing about U.S. hegemony, the petrodollar, the breathtaking global destruction thanks to American-led capitalism. And I haven't heard anyone, except maybe Zelensky, say that Ukraine is going to win back all their territory. It's just Zelensky and Sean Penn in a room alone sucking each other off. My God, the two of you make me think we'd be better off learning about world events from an ugly dog in a necktie. Holy shit. Sean Penn, you are everything wrong with narcissistic, famous, richest U.S. empire fetishists. You think you're standing up for the little guy? Well, you are literally fighting for the largest, most destructive empire the world has ever known. I need some aspirin. Next, the two of them go after Oliver Stone, one of the few in Hollywood to use his media power to criticize the U.S. empire. Please, guys, tell us about Oliver Stone.
What is it that makes a person's mind? I mean, look, we all have places where we disagree with each other vehemently, and we're like, how can this person, who's such a great person, and we love him in so many ways, how can they believe this thing?
I think iconoclasm is a drug for him.
That's a great quote. Yeah.
Wow, Confucius, you just blew Bill Maher's tiny, oh so tiny brain. Iconoclasm is a drug for Oliver Stone, and that's why he's decided to doubt America's obviously bullshit propaganda in a way that neither of you two toddlers can manage. If iconoclasm is Stone's drug, Sean, clearly butt-licking the largest empire in the world is your drug. Fascinating. Does it taste like freedom or democracy? How about when you gave your Oscar to Zelensky saying it could be melted down to make bullets to kill Russians? Was that you not being an iconoclastic, narcissistic, pro-war toddler? You do not represent the underdogs and the oppressed. You represent the most powerful, most deadly, war-making force humanity has ever known. And whether you put duct tape on your shoes to appear dirt poor and therefore more likable or not, that will still be true. When you're that rich and you put duct tape on your shoes, it just looks like you're mocking people who literally need duct tape on their shoes.
We remember Nixon. No, he certainly didn't go where Trump went. But we thought he was like the end of the world. And it turned out he wasn't. Is that what's going to be the case with Trump?
He's already been the end of hundreds of thousands of worlds.
Wait. Oh my God. I'm going to agree with Sean Penn. He's saying Donald Trump has killed hundreds of thousands in Gaza in the U.S.-backed genocide. Or maybe Sean means the cuts to healthcare and social programs that result in God knows how many deaths. I can't believe I'm going to agree with this moron.
He's already been the end of hundreds of thousands of worlds. People, I'm talking about USAID.
Yeah.
USAID, the coup machine that Trump defunded, accidentally revealing a giant web of U.S.-backed propaganda outlets, over 6,000 journalists around the world. But that's just the beginning. USAID has basically been an arm of the CIA creating or trying to create coups everywhere. And this is the one thing you can point to, Sean Penn, as proof that Trump is really bad? Not Gaza? Not the daily genocide we're witnessing on our phones? You don't want to talk a little about that? In fact, spoiler alert, in this entire 80-minute discussion of world events between these two gray-haired whiteout huffers, there is zero talk of Gaza. Not important? Not worth touching on? I know Bill Maher thinks the genocide is awesome. Luckily, Sean Penn has said the genocide is a bad thing. So that sounds like that topic would be good for a debate between you two. But nope, never mind, not important. Let's move on.
I mean, even bigger picture than that. Just, the fundamental essence of America being the peaceful transfer of power.
Is that the fundamental essence of America? The peaceful transfer of power from one insanely rich white man to another insanely rich white man? Oh, and one black guy who did everything the same as the rich white men? That's the fundamental essence. And Bill, it is just so cute that you and your playdate still think there are two separate parties to transfer the power back and forth between, even though it's been over a decade since the large Princeton study that showed that the U.S. is an oligarchy and that the American people have exactly zero impact on policy unless the policies already align with corporate America. Look, I'm a big fan of alcohol, Bill, but when your brain chemistry gets to 70% vodka, you might not want to say your thoughts out loud anymore. Maybe yell them into a pillow or someone's tits or something.
The fundamental essence of America being the peaceful transfer of power, which is, always
the
number
peaceful
one.
Transfer of power, and at what temperature is the globe running when he hands it over?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm certainly a person who believes as much as you do, or any person who can read scientific literature, even for the layman, that we are, doing horrible things environmentally, and it's obviously going to get us at some point. I don't know that one side has really done a lot more than the other.
Wow. Bill Maher's ability to say something actually correct while being repulsive at the same time is truly underappreciated. He thankfully tries to correct the confused Ridgemont High dropout sitting across from him about the fact that the two parties are nearly identical when it comes to doing nothing about climate crisis. They're as different as the Olsen twins. There are three main reasons they are identical on climate crisis. One is that the two parties are actually one party. Two is that big oil companies fund both sides. Three, most importantly, if fossil fuels stop pumping, say it with me, the petrodollar has no soul. It collapses like a house of cards. The U.S. can't print as much money as we want. The $1 trillion a year military is dead in the water, and the debt comes crashing down. Our sociopath leaders will set the world on fire to keep printing money. Neither of these two 3-watt dimwits can begin to understand that. And at the same time, as he's getting something right, Bill Maher's response to the topic of climate crisis is a sheepish, well, it'll get us sometime. It's already getting us, you faux intellectual, faux comedian, purveyor of faux info. Los Angeles burned down a few months ago. Island nations are disappearing. 1 out of every 3 species remaining is endangered or close. It's already here. But I guess if you have a mansion, a jet, 3 girlfriends, and a closet full of strong weed, who cares about the end of the habitable world? Next, They talk about Blackwater mercenaries going into Haiti. Oh, this'll be good. Can you guess which side they're on?
I'm sure the Haitians are the most lovely people in the world, but they, for whatever reason, cannot get their shit together about having a stable country where the gangs don't rule, and sending in Eric Prince and his Blackwater Creedence
it depends on
Revival
what their like rules
tribute band to with them might be just what the doctor ordered.
Oh my God. How do you pack that much stupid into 3 sentences? The Haitians are lovely people, but they can't get their shit together for whatever reason. Jesus Christ, Bill. Colonial powers have been with Haiti since day one. Kind of like you've been unfunny and wrong since the first day of your first TV show. Haiti is one of the poorest nations in the world, and a big part of that is because they were forced to pay the U.S. and France for their freedom from France because they were a breakaway slave colony. The United States worked to isolate a newly independent Haiti during the early 19th century and violently occupied the island for 19 years in the early 20th century. While the U.S. officially left in 1934, it continued to control Haiti's finances until 1947, siphoning away about 40% of their income to service debt repayments to the U.S. and France. And that's just the beginning. The exploitation goes all the way up to modern day. But, Bill, to know that stuff, you'd have to crack open a book, and we wouldn't want that. It might get in the way of your extravagant dinners with your new friend Donald Trump. Well, let's for a minute ignore all of that and say Haiti, for some unknown reason, has a lot of problems. Should we send in Eric Prince and his blood-stained mercenaries to fix those problems? The way I often use a gun to fix a stab wound. Plus, the U.S. has a lot of problems too. The opioid epidemic that killed hundreds of thousands over the past few years. Incredible inequality. Veterans killing themselves at a rate of 20 per day. Millions of homeless or home insecure. And yet at the same time, 17 million housing units sitting vacant, owned by the rich. Man, the U.S. has a lot of awful shit going on. Maybe Haiti should send some mercenary thugs to help solve our problems. That should do it. A few more steroidal numbskulls with guns will fix what ails ya. Sound good, Bill? No, probably not. Maybe it's a terrible idea. Maybe you're a rich asshole, and we should seal your mouth shut with a staple gun. I'll spare you all the rest, but Bill and Sean's idiot adventure goes on to include a long conversation about how Blackwater, which has been disgraced, prosecuted for war crimes, sold, and rebranded multiple times, is actually made up of probably good guys with a lot of skills. And Eric Prince, the billionaire lunatic who founded Blackwater, probably also a good guy with a lot of skills. Despite the clear massacres of innocent people Blackwater and other mercenaries have been responsible for. Lord almighty. You guys, if you're gonna endorse armed thugs for hire, please just admit you're not interested in peace or helping the poor or defending the oppressed. You're just war fetishists running cover for our guys with guns who are clearly the good guys with guns instead of those other guys with guns who are the bad guys with guns. That's the thinking of a toddler. You're both toddlers. Stop lying to yourselves and your audience. Maybe they have vodka and juice boxes you could grab. Anyway, I'll just put a bow on it with this, Jim.
You spend all this time, like, making your brain better.
Yeah.
Like, we laugh at kids or young adults who make fun of us because we're older. And really, I mean, it's such a silly flex when they do that, because if they only knew, and when they get to our age, they'll feel the same way, that, okay, we're not as cute as we used to be, but we just know so much more than you do because we spent so much more days learning. You learn something every day. And so we get to this point where our brain is just way more evolved than it was at 30. I know yours is.